Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. It would be even nicer if there were slides. I'm James Lester. I'm a faculty member in computer science at North Carolina State University, and I'd like to talk with you a little bit about some work that we've been doing over the past several years on game-based learning environments, narrative-centered learning, and particularly some work in affect. So one of the things that's sort of a pervasive theme of learning research over the past decade is a difference from what we've seen in the past, say, 20 years before that. So 20 years before that, we saw lots of work on cognition. That's okay, because thinking's kind of important. But it turns out that there's a whole other half of the equation, and that's affect. So one of the things that we and colleagues around the country have been looking at is affective computing. So looking at how we can develop computational models that can support learning in ways that make it much more effective, not just on the cognitive side, but also on the engagement side. And it turns out that this is both a rewarding and very fun endeavor, not just for the research team, but for the students as well. Now, we don't want to do this just for sort of the small scale. What we'd like to do is to take the results that we're getting and be able to use machine learning methods to make them available for students all over the world. These are students of different cultures, for different learning environments, for different contexts. And if we can do this, it means it's going to be possible to create these very customized learning experiences that in fact are incredibly effective, but also unbelievably engaging. So this is the very big goal. Now, one of the things that we've known for a long time in the learning sciences is that tutoring is really effective. So the sort of opposite of tutoring is classroom experience. I often show a slide with Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller's Day Off with the kids drooling. And public school classrooms aren't quite that bad, but you get the picture. And it turns out that sort of what the screenwriters for that film knew is that one-on-one tutoring is considerably more effective than what we see in a classroom. So it's not just a little more effective, it's a couple of standard deviations more effective, and this is really interesting. Now the question is, why is it effective? So for people that have been tutors, for people who have been tutored, you know that there's something very special that happens between a tutor and a tutee in one-on-one tutoring. What is it? Well, we in the artificial intelligence community have been studying this for some 40 years now, thinking very hard about what is it that's special. It could be the interaction. It could be natural language. Some of us who work in natural language think that there's something particularly special about human-human communication that really gives learning a boost. There's a question of perhaps maybe it's something sort of magical. And one possibility is that magical aspect is in fact affect. So that's what we've been looking at for the past 5 years. And the question is, if we can take sort of classic intelligent tutoring systems, which have been really effective. So over from, say, 1970 till now, so what's that, 40 years, we've seen a real growth in the impact of intelligent tutoring systems. A lot of work out of CMU has been particularly effective here. This is interesting because we're starting to see like one standard deviation difference from classroom behavior. And this is terrific. These are results that often emerge in mathematics. But we still don't have two standard deviations. Now, why could that be? One possibility is that we're doing some things that are right, but maybe not quite right enough. There's this interesting problem called student modeling, where we try to model the plans, the goals, all of the sort of internal structures that evolve in a student's understanding as they're working their way through a learning problem. And this is interesting because we've made a lot of headway on plan recognition. I'm going to mention in just a second some work that we've been doing in game-based learning along these same lines. And we're making good progress there. There are other things that are good. Pedagogical planning, adaptive feedback. These are things that we really are starting to get a grip on. So for this, we can be happy. On the other hand, there are things that are really not quite right about this picture. As I mentioned, there's something about the richness of the interactions that aren't quite what we'd like to see. Communication, we can certainly make more progress there. Experience, and we're really getting down to the meat of it when we get to motivation and experience, and what this really points to is affect. So how can we, knowing what we know about computational models of affect, create games that somehow leverage artificial intelligence and understand all the fantastic technologies that are emerging in the game community to create effective learning experiences. And so somewhere around 5 or 6 years ago, my group sat down at a table and started asking ourselves this question: how can we take AI technologies and game technologies, marry them, and have a progeny that we can study in the classroom that will actually let us understand what makes for effective learning? So we've been working on, among other things, a project called Crystal Island. Crystal Island is a game-based learning environment originally developed for 8th graders studying microbiology. Students play the role in Crystal Island of a student who's solving a mystery. All of the research members of the research team are falling ill on the island, and it's the student's job to be able to diagnose what's the cause of this outbreak. And there are all kinds of horrible things that can go wrong on an island, it turns out. In particular, salmonella. I'm not making this up. I was giving a talk about this learning environment in Taiwan several years ago and came down with salmonella poisoning. So the symptoms which make middle schoolers snicker are actually real. I can tell you. Actually, I think I see Bev Wolf in the audience, and Bev was one of the people who rescued me from salmonella. So many students have played this game now. We've actually had over 1,500 students in many studies play Crystal Island. Lots and lots of trace data, really interesting results and learning trajectories. Students make their way from trying to first understand what the symptoms are to actually identifying what the illness is. They eventually work with a hypothesis space to manage their hypothesis, and all kinds of really interesting science education work. What I'd like to do is to, in about 15 seconds, mention about 5 years' worth of work, which is that we consistently get learning gains. That is, we do pre-test and post-test, and we get deltas that are positive. We get engagement as measured by validated instruments like the presence questionnaire. And we don't see an oppositional relationship between learning and engagement. In fact, we see a positive relationship between them. And this is very encouraging because, in fact, what we see with children playing games either in the classroom or at home, they have positive experiences, and if those can somehow promote learning, then this is a very good thing. And as one of the previous speakers mentioned, we also see this regardless of game playing experience, which is sort of surprising. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but really interesting, I think. Much of the work that we've been doing has been spreading out to other versions of Crystal Island. We've been working in microbiology, as I mentioned. We have a 5th grade version looking at landforms, both of these supported by NSF. Last year, we launched the new project on literacy with the support of the Gates Foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, and EDUCAUSE for middle graders. And just something like 2 weeks ago, we started a project on Crystal Island looking at computational fluency for middle grade students, which we think is going to be very, very important in addressing pipeline problems. Much of the work that we do looks at affect, how people experience learning. So this goes all the way from affect recognition to automatically recognizing the affective states that students are in, to affect synthesis, where we synthesize the affective expressions of pedagogical agents. And really closing this affective loop has been a really important line of investigation, not just in our lab, but in several others that are looking at how we can leverage affect to improve learning. We do all kinds of work looking at galvanic skin response, butt sensors, as we call them. We also look at distance to a computer screen, and even self-reports, which turn out to actually be quite helpful. We get frequencies across lots of different schools that mirror the same sorts of frequencies of self-reports of affect. We also see trajectories that are the same, which are actually really diagnostic of what's going on in a learning environment. We develop computational models of affect to predict not only the affective state, but the valence of the affective state from both dynamic properties and static properties that students have coming in to the learning experience. This turns out to be very important. So for example, if you're trying to monitor frustration, if you can detect just that moment when frustration is too great, then you can intervene and make a much more positive impact on that student, getting them to hang in there. A construct that's turned out to be very important is called GRIT. Many of you may have heard about this. And really, there's something about game-based learning, as Jody was mentioning, and persistence that is something that we think we're really going to be able to leverage. There's so much opportunity for affect, all kinds of work in narrative-centered tutorial planning, tons of work in goal recognition, as I mentioned, being able to track the problem-solving activities of a student in a learning environment, to automatically be able to predict their goals, to predict their plans. This is a terrific opportunity to provide very, very customized feedback. Self-regulated learning, all kinds of work on metacognition, being able to track students' ability to calibrate their learning, to be able to detect particular strategies, to provide advice and instruction on particular strategies that they can use. Presence, we ran an interesting study several years ago where just a very small change in the empathetic response of agents produced a significant impact on presence, which is the sense of being there in a learning environment. So we did this for middle school students and then repeated it for high school students and got exactly the same result. So there are all kinds of opportunities for making these seemingly small little tweaks to things that are quite natural for us as human beings in communication, but in fact can have a really significant impact on students' experience as they engage in learning. Now, one thought I wanted to leave you with is that while much of the work that I'm describing has been conducted in classrooms, and we have studies going on in classrooms all the time, I think one of the really big opportunities is sort of this bridge between formal settings and informal settings. So many of us know, particularly at museums, there are significant opportunities, but there are a lot of hours that kids spend at home, that could be spent both productively and in an engaged manner if they had access to learning environments that occupied a sort of privileged place at school, but also occupied a privileged place at home. So one of the things that we're looking at now is being able to bridge this gap between formal learning and informal learning, and it turns out that game-based learning environments, particularly those that are able to provide this very customized instruction, can, we think, play a very important role in being able to bridge this gap and make for very, very, very different kinds of sort of lifelong learning opportunities that we didn't see before. So I'd like to conclude by thanking all the people who really did all this work, colleagues and students, and we particularly appreciate the support of NSF, the Gates Foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, and EDUCAUSE. Thank you so much.